Hello and welcome to the Collegiate Live, the official podcast of GRCC student publication, The Collegiate. In today's episode, are college students okay? An exploration of a mental health study that GRCC put out recently. Plus, our sports team takes a look back at the local season and looks ahead to what the Lions' upcoming season might look like. And I sit down for an exclusive interview with GRCC's new Interim President, Dr. Steven Triezenberg, about how he feels his first couple weeks in the job have been going. If you have a topic you want covered on the show or a question you want answered by one of our hosts on air, send it our way by going to thecollegiatelive.com/podcast. First, we've got some updates on GRCC's campus with our managing editor, Kenzie Davis. Kenzie, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. We got some updates for GRCC students. I know now that the summertime has rolled around, we're not always looking at our email. Some of the bigger things, we have Ransom Street closure that started on June 2nd. Ramp A parking lot the top part will be closed for the entirety of the summer as the library construction progresses. Students will now, if they want to park in Ramp A, will have to go to the lower level in the staff entrance if they want to park there. The Bostwick parking ramp will be open, and the College Park Plaza parking, lower and upper parking levels are now closed. We also have a Lantern Festival that's going on in GRCC at the John Ball Zoo. That is soon to be closing. The last day is June 15th, so if anyone is interested, definitely go check that out. It is definitely a sight to see.
The Board of Trustees at GRCC approved a tuition increase in March. That is a 2.4% increase, which will make classes quite a bit more expensive, and students should be prepared for that.
It should be noted that most years have a tuition increase of some kind, usually somewhere between 1% and 3%. 2.4% is about in line with what's been happening. I think a little bit more than the last increase, but it is in line with generally tuition goes up 1% or 2% every year.
Yeah, and I think that the top level of parking ramp A is going to become a green roof.
I did hear that.
I think they're going to have like little paths, though, so that people can get to the different bridges and things, like the one that goes to Ford Field House. Cars cannot, people can.
Last month, there was a Healthy Minds Network study put out of people on the GRCC campus, and it revealed a couple trends that have been happening in mental health. Kenzie, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so basically we just have some statistics that some are concerning, some are a little bit better in terms of like discrimination. I think the biggest one that I saw was kind of shocking. Was this loneliness scale that they did. They asked students, there was 760 responses, and one of the questions was, how often do you feel that you lack companionship? We had 25% of the student population, or the student responses said often, and then 39% said some of the time. We had the other question that said, how often do you feel left out or isolated? And some of those numbers were also on the higher end of 26-25%.
The number that struck me was that 75% of people that responded says they were currently in therapy or counseling for something, and 70% of those are screening positive for anxiety or depression, which matches what I've noticed incidentally with people on campus and sort of the stories that we're telling, people that are opening up more about their going to therapy. I feel like a lot more people are going to therapy and talking about it than have been. I'd be interested to see how that number has changed since the last couple of years.
I've listened to a podcast recently, and it talked about how there are rising loneliness, depression, anxiety numbers from people. But some of that you have to think that it's partly because we're just becoming more open. The stereotypes of, I'm just going to hold that in and not talk about it. And so that's changing a little bit. But I also think I wrote a story where I interviewed students asking them just where they find their community. And I had a lot of people who honestly didn't feel like they had a community here, which was really surprising because GRCC has a lot of different groups and social occasions that you can go to, but I just don't think students are really putting themselves out there anymore as they used to.
And I know that a lot of that has to do with we've lost our third spaces. I talk about this a lot, the idea that you have your work, you have your home, but we're losing those third places you would go, the mall, a coffee shop, somewhere where you might go to spend time with other people, to meet new people, to have some place to exist that you can feel you belong at that isn't someplace you're employed or where you live. And as everything is becoming behind a paywall, as we are growing increasingly disconnected, we're losing those. And I imagine that these statistics are a lot in part influenced by the fact that a lot of people aren't going places, aren't meeting new people. They are going to school and then back home. And that, of course, influences how you interact with people.
I think it's also important to note that the sample might be sort of skewed because the people that would fill out the survey might be more comfortable talking about mental health in general. If you saw like a mental health survey and you are in therapy and you talk about that a lot, I think you're more likely to just fill it out. Whereas people that are more uncomfortable talking about that kind of thing and not involved with that are less likely to.
Well, and we have it says on the survey how many people answered. It was around like 700, 800 different responses from people. And we have like 12 or 11 to 12,000 students here. So yeah, it's definitely a very small category of students that were able to respond to that survey, which is another issue that, you think about is how do we get people to actually engage with some of those things that the college is sending out.
And I think that is sad too that students don't participate because that could be a third space for them. Like, I know school is kind of a form of work, but it can also be a form of community. And if you're not getting involved, you're just going to classes, there's less chance that you will find that community. And I don't know, a loss of third space is definitely to do with like economy and just the state of the world and even how people socialize after COVID. But I think it is also, the way people put themselves out there, like you said.
So for students who are feeling any of these anxious or depressed thoughts, or you're struggling with some of these mental health issues, the GRCC has a lot of programs for students to contact that can help you out. The Counseling Center is one of those. We have a lot of different groups on campus. The Woodrick Center is also a great place for you to reach out and find support there as well.
Eva, I know you also just recently covered a protest that was in solidarity with the events happening in Palestine right now. It was an emergency rally in response to a lot of the more recent events. You want to talk about that?
Right now in Gaza, there is a lot of isolation and stopping of medical supplies and food. There is infants and children starving, like all ages actually starving, and just not unable to take care of themselves. So that was a big conversation when I was there, thus the need for an emergency rally. But it was really interesting, the things that go on in your city, like all this time and like you don't even realize. They show up like every Saturday, and they have been showing up since 2021, some of them. I interviewed a woman in her 70s who actually like organized the organization, which is PSGR, Palestine Solidarity Grand Rapids. And they have like all kinds of support groups and stuff like that. So it's really interesting how people come together when there is like these horrible things.
I also know locally there was a high-profile trial of former GRPD officer Christopher Scher, who was accused of murder at a routine traffic stop that escalated, and that case was, after a very long debate, declared a mistrial, and the possibility of a civil retrial was on the table, but recently it was announced that they're not pursuing a retrial. So it seems like that case is largely closed unless something opens up later in the future. But the response to that seems to be mostly negative. It seems like whether you were on the side of the officer or of Patrick and his family, it seems like most people wanted an outcome, and a retrial would have given them that. potentially, but a mistrial seems to have upset both parties because nobody gets the conclusion they're really looking for.
It is interesting that there's no resolution. The jury was largely for acquittal, which I also find interesting. There is a civil lawsuit that is still in process. The Leoya family is looking for compensation for a number of different things. One, the loss of Patrick's finances, and for hardship.
Softball had probably arguably one of the best seasons I think I've ever seen in college sports. I mean, besides there's that one college softball team that went undefeated, but finished 39-6. They won the MCCAA Northern Conference Championship and finished up as runner-ups in regionals for the second time in 3 years, which I've got a weird feeling that they might win it come next year.
I mean, the leader, I guess if you want to call her
leader,
Kalani Stowe.
Oh my gosh.
I guess she's like the Shohei Ohtani of
of
GRCC
softball.
1.02 ERA.
Insane.
18-1 record. That doesn't even really make sense. 18-1.
Yeah.
441 batting average, 12 doubles, 4 triples, 2 home runs, 51 stolen bases.
Yeah, I think
that's pretty good.
That led the conference.
I believe so.
For 51 stolen bases.
Pretty dominant year.
Yeah.
Both sides. Pitching and
having a 1.02 ERA, which is third in the nation, whilst also having a 441 batting average.
7 shutouts too.
Yeah, with 7 shutouts, it's unreal. I don't think I've ever seen a baseball or softball player do that ever.
No, it's not a thing.
Like you said, it's the Shohei Ohtani of community college softball,
basically.
And not even with her stats, but all the awards she won as a freshman. She won all region, all MCCAA, first team all conference, conference player of the year, conference freshman of the year, and all freshman team honors. Almost every single award you probably could have won.
Yeah, I think so. Just about. And there was a lot of other awards won by the team. Natalie Beck earned all region, all all MCCAA, all first team, all conference, all freshman team, District B, all tournament team, and the list really goes on. Even the coach, Chuck White, won Coach of the Year again
in his 3rd season.
Yeah.
He built this team. He did a really good job recruiting a bunch of really strong freshmen.
Yeah, they're a young team.
Yeah, this is a very deep freshman team.
Which makes you, leads you to believe they're probably going to be back at this.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, they came up short this year. They didn't reach what they thought they could, but I think they'll be back next year.
Oh, yeah. For sure. If he keeps up this this recruiting, I think they'll be fine. Yeah. They'll be really good.
Baseball, they had an interesting year. They started in Florida. They start in Florida every year. Mm-hmm. Then bounce around a little bit in the South, Georgia, They started 1-10 there. But then in conference play, they did go 19-6. So they had a really good year in the conference. When they got back to Michigan, they started to win a little bit more. Ultimately, they came up short I think they ran into Lansing Community College. So they lost in the first round, but still a really impressive year in the conference. And they had some key players too. Ty Sandwick, he hit 370 for the year, which 405 in conference play, pretty good. Joey Heisel, he led the team, 6 home runs, also with an OPS over 1,000, as well as Peter Heinz, also with an OPS over 1,000.
Yeah, finishing with the OPS over 1,000 is insane.
They also had really good pitching too. They had especially Kyle O'Hearn. He's a freshman. 0.6 ERA in conference play, 30 innings. He gave up 2 runs in 30 innings, struck out 37 batters, only allowed 4 walks. So pretty good conference season for him. That led him getting first team all conference honors and
deservedly so.
Yeah, they actually had 4 players reach first team all conference. Heisel and O'Hearn both made it as well. As well as pitchers Thano Klett and Andrew Pullman, also very strong years. All of them had ERAs under 3 in conference play. So very strong year for their pitching as well. And coach Mike Eddington, another coach of the year,
One coach of the year.
third consecutive conference coach of the year. That's pretty good. You're doing something right if you've won.
Yeah, you're doing something right.
You're doing something right.
Hopefully next season we can get that go deeper in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they'll have a good shot.
Yeah, I think so too.
They had a lot of, again, both teams had really good freshman players.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hopefully the freshman players stay.
And I want to give, Colin Beckett some credit because it's a tournament, the conference or the, whole championship tournament has over 140 golfers, and he finished 15th. So he had and I believe he was top 10 entering the last day. So he had a really good tournament. Especially in the second hole, or I think it was second hole. He had a score of 69 on a hole that was 72 course, so finished 3 under par. So he had a really nice showing. And also, unfortunately, their head coach John Fortin did announce he is retiring, and he had a really good legacy at GRCC. If you want to, yeah.
He was a 9-time MCCAA Western Conference Coach of the Year, 4-time MCCAA Coach of the Year, and 4-time NJCAA Region 12 Coach of the Year. It's
almost there.
Professional football season, NFL.
It's been a long off season.
We got 90 days until.
Well, technically, the Hall of Fame game.
Oh yeah, that's coming up.
Which the Lions are
coming
in.
up.
Now, I don't get too excited.
Against the Chargers.
Against the Chargers. It's July 31st. It's next month already.
Yeah. Hutchinson versus Harbaugh.
I don't get too excited for preseason, but you do have to acknowledge it is around the corner. Should probably address Frank Ragnow. It's tough loss.
Tough loss.
He was Frank was. I mean, he embodied what Dan Campbell was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the amount of injuries that guy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't know it if you looked at his games played. I mean, he was playing almost every week.
I think what was 2020, the 2022 season, I think it was.
He
had
the
least amount of games played he's ever played in his career.
But then since then, he's basically played every week.
Fighting through toe injuries, finger injuries, torn ligaments.
He had a throat injury.
Yeah, fractured his throat. Don't know how the heck that happens, but it happens apparently.
I can't say I blame him for retiring at the end.
I don't blame him for retiring.
No. I think most Lions fans felt it coming, just not this soon. I personally, I thought he would play out his contract, which I think ran for another 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought he would retire. I don't fault. I mean, the amount of injuries. You want to be able to walk when you're 60.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame him for stepping away.
I know.
Very well deserved.
He deserves to retire.
Anyone
Anyone that says that their Super Bowl window is over or close to being over, wrong. It's just starting, guys. This team is built to last.
They're built to last. They're really young. I don't know if people realized how young they are.
I think the average age is 25.
It's a young
It's
team.
Insane.
I will say one more note. The coordinator situation could maybe be interesting.
I think we'll see that at the beginning of the year. I think we'll see struggle at the beginning of the year, but
I wouldn't
as
be shocked.
Season progresses, I think they'll come more.
I know their
together.
offensive coordinator, John Morton, was once Jets offensive coordinator, and I believe their offense.
He likes to launch that ball.
I know their offense did not finish bottom 5 with Josh McCown at quarterback, and that's all I need to know.
Yep, exactly.
If you were doing something with Josh McCown, you're fine.
No, 1,000%.
So.
All right, yeah, we're in for an interesting season, guys, and I cannot wait.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, I'm so ready.
How long have you been in education?
Been in education for a long time. I did college at Calvin and got a major in both biology and did the secondary education training program. So it's been part of my background ever since then. Graduate school was mostly research work, postdoc, but then faculty position at Michigan State in 1987.
What do you think is the central tenet of education from your point of view?
Education is for the students, right? It's to give students the knowledge and the skills and the experiences that equip them for whatever direction they are headed in. That principle came clear to me when I was at Michigan State University. I taught in the medical school. So I was in a biochemistry department, which is mostly a research department. Teaching in the medical school, and the medical students don't really want to understand their research. They want to know what it is they need to know to be good doctors. And faculty who were successful in teaching in the medical school understood what the students need from that experience. And for the medical students, it's different than for the PhD students. Even if they were studying the same subject, the same content area, there were different reasons for learning that. So here at the community college, that same principle applies. What do these students need in this setting for the paths that they are on, and how do we best provide that for them?
Sure. So you've been working here for a couple weeks now. How do you feel about how your first couple weeks have gone?
The community's been very welcoming, very warm, very encouraging, very supportive. The staff have been great about helping me figure out how to do the things that operate a certain way in this setting, whether it's learning how to run my desk or my computer or learning my way around campus. Staff have been very helpful. And the leadership have been very warm, inviting, eager to work together. And that's a great environment to step into.
Sure. How were you approached to get this job?
There were a couple of folks who know the institution well, and when it became clear that an interim president would be needed, they, in a quiet conversation, raised the notion with me. It took a period of discernment for me and for the board to decide whether this was the right fit, and eventually we both came to the decision that it would be.
How has the interim nature of this position affected how you approach it versus if it were a permanent job?
It changes some of the focus of my work. A permanent president in a place like GRCC has responsibilities to lead strategic planning, to bring in some vision for where the university, the college will go over some period of time. As an interim role, my time here will be limited. And so I need to respect the work that's been done and the work that will be done. I feel a responsibility to set the stage for the next president so that they walk in with an opportunity to succeed and quickly and effectively. But my job here is not to set a grand new vision. My job is not to see how we can reorganize the structure of the place. My job here really is to stabilize and to affirm the people who are working here now, to keep our eyes on the mission, which is to give a great education to our students, to continue to promote the college to the public that supports us, and then to prepare the path for the next president.
What do you think your biggest goals are while you're here?
To remind the college and its people that this is really a remarkable institution that has a great past, that does really good work for its students, and is a great place to work. There are a lot of challenges in higher education right now, and sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that. So part of my job is just to remind people of the value of the mission and the quality of the institution that GRCC is, and to remind each other of that, to share good stories of success that students or faculty or staff have had, and then to keep our eye on where we need to go, laying a good foundation for the next president.
What do you think the biggest challenges will be?
There are lots of winds blowing outside the institution that affect it at the federal and the state levels. Those create some challenges for the institution, financial and enrollment challenges. It creates challenges for students who may have some uncertainties about which direction their education should go and whether they have the resources to attend. Creates some challenges for faculty and staff about what kinds of things we can say or what kinds of programs can be developed. And so we have to continue to keep our eyes on what we know is part of our mission and continue to do that well in spite of or in the context of all of those external forces at play.
When you're not working here, what do you do in your free time? How do you spend your life when you're not behind a desk?
Well, for almost 2 years, I was in a retirement situation. Have a long list of things, still have a long list of things that I will enjoy doing in retirement. I like being at Habitat for Humanity work sites. So much of my work has been cerebral, intellectual. Working on a job site with the Habitat for Humanity volunteers, we see something physical that got built that day. Take a satisfaction in seeing that done, and then go home and let the site supervisor worry about what's going to happen the next day. So Habitat for Humanity, I love to read. I read broadly biographies, mysteries, fiction, historical or history, read broadly. I like music. I play percussion instruments, tambourine, timpani, everything in between. Have more opportunities to do that in retirement. I enjoy golfing. I have a leave of absence from my golf course job to take this position for this year. And I'll look forward to getting back to that a year from now or so.
What about GRCC? You made it a choice that you wanted to take to leave that retirement phase and come back.
I've long had a respect for the place of community colleges in the fabric of higher education. I've long had an appreciation for GRCC specifically in the fabric of higher education here in West Michigan. I think there are a number of things that we did at Van Andel Institute that illustrate my interest, my commitment to collaboration among higher ed institutions here in West Michigan. And so a lot of respect for the institution and its place here. And then seeing a need and seeing that at this time, some of the skills and experiences that I have might be appropriate in this setting. That kind of led to the decision to take this on.
Do you have a mantra, a phrase, a quote that you try to keep in mind as you're doing it?
Maybe a phrase that someone introduced to me a few months ago. Do the next right thing was the phrase that they used in a very different context. But that resonated with me as I was contemplating this position, this opportunity. And this felt like the next right thing to do.
The Collegiate Live is the official podcast of GRCC student publication The Collegiate. For more information or to submit a question to be read on air, go to thecollegiatelive.com/podcast.